coach with the offensive line this past year. I spent with Coach Fry and Mike Solani and learned a whole lot about the run game and those kind of fundamentals. I felt I was prepared if there was an opportunity. And I'm just super appreciative of Coach Day trusting me. I can't wait to get going.
Yeah, and getting to working your way up. I mean, you've been here, I think this is your 8th year, I think, coming up. I mean, just get into working your way up.
Yeah, I mean, rapid fire came in with Coach Alford, worked with the running backs, and moved over, linked up with Heartline and the receivers, worked with quarterbacks, and then most frequently with the offensive line with Coach Fry and Coach Solani. And that was the best year, by the way. Make sure they know that.
And then the tight end room this year, getting Cade back, I know was huge for you guys coming off that big year. And then you got Jelani Thurman coming in and a bunch of guys in between there as well. Just talk about your room and how do you see it shaking out behind Cade?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a deep room full of versatile guys, starting with Cade, right? I don't think I could have hand-selected a better, leader for my first year of being a unit leader to kind of have as my foundation. And to have a guy like Cade who does things right on and off the field is going to make my job a whole lot easier. And then they all just follow in line. I mean, we've got a deep room of the G's and Joe's and Bennett's and Sam's and Pat Gerds, and you mentioned Jelani, a whole lot of guys. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but a whole lot of guys that are hungry, excited to get to work.
What was so fun about the offensive line stuff last year? You said that was the best.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was something I didn't know, right? And you can't grow unless you're uncomfortable. So going from being a route running guy with, Coach Hart to, a quarterback guy with Coach Dennis and Coach Day, Coach Fitch, and now all of a sudden I'm in this world of offensive line. I don't know, a base block versus a cutoff. And those two guys, Coach Fry, Coach Solani, are the best, offensive line coaches in the country. So just being uncomfortable was awesome.
I know Kevin Wilson always used to say you're coaching tight ends, you're teaching guys how to play left tackle and receiver at the same time. You obviously have the skill position background. How beneficial is it to now have the O-line background as well when you're trying to teach these guys how to block?
Sure, and that's exactly right. I think, I was talking to some, prospective student athletes, and I was just saying how at Ohio State especially, one play you got to block Chase Young, Zach Harrison, Jack Sawyer, JT, and then the next rep I'm asking you to get open against Rocket and Lathan and, first-round DBs. It's like, no offense to the left tackle we had last year, but I'm not asking Paris to do what Marvin does. I'm not asking Marvin to go block JT. So imagine asking you to do both in consecutive plays. But yeah, definitely. I mean, this time spent with the offensive line is going to help, fuel. And I mean, Coach Wilson was a huge mentor, huge help to me learning that aspect of it. I think I could fall back on my route running days with Coach Hart pretty well.
A lot of the guys spoke very highly of you. What was some of the things that they said to you when they heard this promotion?
Everyone was asking me, like, my favorite part about getting this promotion and getting hired, and it was hearing those former players. I mean, just I couldn't list all of them, but hearing some of those guys, those Terry McLaurins and Paris Campbells, and even those defensive guys. I got Jordan Fuller calling me, and hearing from those guys meant way more, no offense, than media and tweets. I love you guys, but, hearing those guys, see, hey, Key, I remember when you were running scout team, and now all of a sudden you guys are a unit. That was probably the highlight of it all for my wife and I.
What does it mean to you you sort of bet on yourself in the last 5 years here. You've had opportunities to go elsewhere, and a lot of people talk positive about you, as you said, but for young coaches going through what you went through the last 7 years, has it struck you yet how, kind of amazing this is?
I don't know. If there's going to be an aha moment. Maybe it might be the first time in the shoe. Maybe it might be the first time getting my tail ripped by my boss or something. But no, I think it is pretty cool that at each step of the way I said people over places, and I just so happened to get linked up with Brian Hartline and Ryan Day and Mick Marotti and Urban Meyer, and I went all in on people and relationships and not ping-ponging around. I know that works out for a lot of people, and maybe it would have worked out for me, who knows, but I bet on those people and it paid off, and I'm just so appreciative of them.
Keenan, towards the end of the year, we started seeing Joe working his way back in there. I don't know if you probably already asked this, but what's the ceiling for him now that he might get a more normal year?
Yeah, no, I mean, Joe, G, all those guys, the ceiling is whatever. I mean, they're the most gifted athletes in the country. We're Ohio State, so the sky's the limit for all those guys, Joe included. I can't wait to see just how they work from a day-to-day standpoint with me working for them. But no, the sky's the limit for those guys.
Was Cade a big recruiting win for you, or you just let him handle that on his own?
Cade had an opportunity to do something great. I think, that he's got some things to work on. He'd be the first one to tell you. And he could go down I think, as one of the better tight ends that come through this place, which is certainly something to be said about that. We talk a lot about legacy, and from the day you're recruited and you come in here, we have goals, and we did not hit those goals last year. And for a guy from Ohio to not hit those goals as the starter is huge. I think we all know what those goals are. I don't need to get into that, but I think that helped Cade coming back.
He seemed to take that really personally, and I think it makes sense why he's the captain. Just a month into it now with workouts, and I mean, how are you noticing a difference in his mentality from years past, which was already pretty good? I'm not saying it wasn't, but he's a captain, didn't win those games. What's he like around the building right now?
Yeah, and it's not just Cade, but I think, every coach from Pee Wee level to NFL says every rep matters, and it's like a cliche, and every play matters. We were one play away from a national championship opportunity, a couple plays away from every goal we wanted. So now, everyone knows the urgency. To your point, yes, Cade's kind of setting it. He's a serious guy. He's a captain. He's an urgent guy, but the urgency's ramped up for sure just because of the season we just had.
How important is this position group going to be, especially given new tackles on both sides and the blocking that you're going to have to do and helping them along to form that chemistry that you're
Yeah, no, it'll be critical. And again, I think that's got to be the identity of our room. There's no better time to be a tight end than at Ohio State right now, because at one play, and if you watch how football's going, right, tight ends can be a mismatch nightmare. You just hinted at being a left tackle. How about the next play, we're an X receiver? So having that versatility is really to keep defenders and defensive coordinators on their heels, I think. So yeah, it's going to be huge in the pass game. It's going to be huge in the run game, huge in the protection game, losing a couple tackles all across the board.
Keenan, what's been the biggest difference since the promotion? Has there been a difference?
Yeah, there's a closet over there that I used to work out of, and it's vacant now. That's the only difference. I got a new title, but my job's the same. I always said you got to make the Buckeyes better. You got to grow closer to the locker room. You got to outwork that team up north. I mean, the job's the same, the title's different, but I got a new office. That's the biggest difference.
When you have different position groups you've worked with, how much commonality is there in the coaching that goes into that, and how much is it different? Obviously there's different technique in that.
Yeah.
How much is coaching, and how much does it depend on different positions? How much does that change?
Sure. I think the foundation's all the same, right? It's getting student athletes, young people, to see things they can't see on their own, to do things they can't do on their own, to hear things they don't want to hear at times. So I think that's coaching. Now the technique, like you said, I didn't know anything about offensive line or run blocking until I spent a year with Coach Brian, Coach Delaney. But so techniques change, but I think coaching's coaching. I think, you take a great coach, whoever the bet, you take Ryan Day, you take Urban Meyer, Mick Marotti, have them coach JV girls basketball. They're going to be a heck of a squad. So I think coaching's coaching.
How much did you work with Coach Wilson over, I don't know exactly how long it was from when you were officially named coach to, when he actually left?
Yeah, there was a transition time, which I thought was great towards the bowl prep, that I sat in his meetings and heard how he coached it, because it's not broke. So it's not like it's, they say if it's not broke, don't fix it. This is certainly not a broke room. This is one of the best tight end rooms in the country. So I want to take as much as what Coach Wilson did. I want to learn from him. I asked him questions. I still text him, asking him questions, and I just want to kind of build on that. So, yeah.
What do you feel like are the most important, lessons or things you learned, maybe big picture things about, being a position coach or things like that from him?
From Coach Wilson?
Yeah.
Well, I think as far as the tight end room, again, just that versatility. I mean, you're playing left tackle and X receiver. And I know I've already said it, but at Ohio State, one play you got to block the best pass rusher on their defense. And then the next play, depending on coverage, I got to get open against their best coverage guy.
You mentioned the amount of veterans you have, Cade, Joe, all those guys.
Yeah.
How much of an effect does that have on a guy like Jelani, who's coming kind of wide-eyed, who has big expectations for coming into this program? How have you seen that affect him in his first days here?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, the example, I don't need to go create one and pull up clips of here's how, Hireman and Finette did it, here's how it should be done. No, just watch Stover. I mean, if he's in here getting extra work wiring, you kind of think, what I mean? And Jelani's done a great job so far, attaching himself to those old guys, taking coach, and he's done a great job since he's been here. But I don't need to go creating examples, showing them NFL clips. Just look around you.
And I mean, he's a guy that has high expectations, or wants to make an impact quickly here.
Yeah.
And I mean, have you seen that in his drive in terms of these winter practices, and has that been an easy transition?
No, yeah, he's been eager, but I mean, since day one, he'd be in my office with a notepad, and we're getting to work. So I'm going to let his actions speak. But no, he's definitely eager. I can't wait to get on the field working with him.
seemed like things moved pretty quickly once Kevin got the job.
Yeah.
What was that process like for you?
There was conversations daily. In my role last year, that was kind of my job was to work alongside Coach Day. So there was always ongoing conversations, and then when we figured out there would be an opening, he came to me and we just got to work. It was much going from there.
I mean, it seemed like Ryan has talked about you a lot in the past and the things that you've done together. How did you go about in your roles trying to add value to this organization? Right? Like, what was your approach in the roles you were in previously here to say, what can I do? Because I don't know, it seemed like at times it'd be like, all right, well, you're doing this, but also Keenan did this project.
And I think that goes back to just being a graduate assistant. Your job is to take things off the plate of the assistant coach, right? You're the assistant coach. So I know movies portrayed as a guy running to get coffee, but it's everything. It's Doug, I know you got to speak at a high school next week. Hey, here's who's coaching at the high school. Here's who you should say hi to. Here's what you should hit on. Hey, remember that player played back here in the 80s, just to make you better at your job. So I kind of just kept that mindset. I don't care what my title was each of the last 6 years. How can I have Brian Hartline, most prepared, Ryan Day most prepared? We talk about anticipating and looking around corners for the head coach, and if I would always try to be one step ahead of Coach Day and give him options, or I'm not advising him. I don't have the answers, but as much preparedness as I could assist. It's kind of my job.
What was the point in your life where you figured out, hey, I might want to be a college football coach? And how did you come to that realization?
Playing the NCAA video game instead of doing the Road to Glory where you're the athlete. I was the coach, and I thought it was sweet. I'm starting at FAU and going to end up at Notre Dame or Ohio State, wherever I'm going to end up. And I wasn't a great football player in high school. I'm a far better coach, but I went to Mizzou out of high school, and that first season there were such good coaches with Coach Pinkel and that staff. I said, I don't ever want to do anything else. I went to college to be a journalist. No offense to that industry. I was like, we won the SEC East.